Yeah, no. Yeah, no, for sure. Not the news we want to report here in the Weege Show. I'm Jason Weigandt, a special double edition. We'll have another preview when we are there for press day riding at Rice Eccles Stadium. This video, of course, brought to you by the Honda CRF450R and CRF250R, which won everything over the weekend in Denver. A 1-2 by the Lawrence brothers on the 450 and a 1 for Joe Shimoda on the 250, getting it done at altitude, by the way, showing that bike's fast. It'll be interesting to see Shimoda in Pro Motocross and how he can do there. But breaking news of the bad kind right now, not one but two thumbs down for the Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing team. We did hear at the end of the Denver Supercross that both Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac were dealing with thumb injuries, but at the time it was believed that Tomac's wasn't that bad. Clearly, Eli and the team went in and got more checks this week, and just here on a Thursday afternoon, it has been announced that he has a Bennett fracture in the thumb and some ligament damage, and now he needs surgery, 6 to 8 weeks recovery for that at least. So not only is Eli out for the weekend in Salt Lake City, but at least the opening rounds of Pro Motocross, which we only just found out he was going to compete in the first place. This is really bad news, although I think one silver lining is I believe in a normal year, this would be it for Eli's season. He wouldn't come back for any motocross at all. But I think the whole reason Eli was racing motocross in the first place was to try to build as huge of a physical base as possible for an assault again on 2025. So if that's the goal, not just win the title or bust, but log gnarly 30 plus 2 motos against the best in the business to get stronger and fitter for next year, well, you could still do that if you come in and race the back half of the campaign or that break that they have during Loretta Lynn's before everyone returns for Unadilla. I'd hope to see Eli back at that point, and then that would help him get in shape also and get bike time so he could be ready for SMX. And as we've learned over and over in any of these championships, you just got to be in it to win it. And that leads us to Webb's side of the story. I believe Webb's going to be out for a bit too. Now, he indicated that it probably won't need surgery, but he needs rest. So I don't think, although it hasn't been said yet, you'll see Webb at the Pro Motocross opener either. We'll see. But for Webb, you have to show up. If you're mathematically in the Supercross Championship, you got to get on that plane. You got to go to Salt Lake City, and you got to try to grip it any way you can and rip it, because no team knows better what can happen in a championship than this Yamaha team, which had the championship basically locked up. It was probably everything but the thumb, probably 9 fingers on the trophy for Eli Tomac last year, and it went out with an Achilles injury. So you've got to at least show up just in case Jett Lawrence maybe crashes in practice. But what makes this intriguing, the 20-point deficit that Webb has, even if Jett were to somehow not line up or not finish the main, which this year, 22nd, last place in the main event, pays 0 points, even still, Webb would have to finish first or second in the Salt Lake City main event to make up enough points to win the title from Jett anyway. And with the thumb injury, and even with Eli out, but there's still enough fast 450 riders, that will be tough to get first or second, starting with Hunter Lawrence, who you know would give it everything he had to try to protect the championship for his brother. You still have Chase Sexton, who's been looking fast lately, and Jason Anderson, who's been good lately, and a whole lot of other riders to deal with. But this is all a mythical, mysterious scenario. This is all if something 1 in a million happened to Jett Lawrence. But just on that 1 in a million, what do they say in the movie? What about all that 1 in a million stuff? Just because of that, Webb's going to have to line up. And then I don't know if we're going to see him for a bit. And man, what a bummer for the Yamaha team when you think about it. For Webb, look, he had engineered what every racer wants. He got it down to basically a 4-race championship. Every rider would love to win the title by 100 points or wrap it up early, but I think all of them know this is difficult enough to just stay in it to the end. To bet on yourself in a 4-race series where the points are tied, that's something that every one of these guys would, at minimum, sign on for, because at least it means they're in the hunt, and that's what Webb did. The injury cost him a shot at it. It would have been tough against Jett anyway, but Webb has a way of figuring out how to get things done, and he and we missed out on seeing what he would have done to try to get this championship, but I do think he's going to have to show up. Now, one other scenario to think about here. Tomac has announced he wants to race motocross and SMX this year, and he's also leaving hints that this is to try to build for 2025. As I mentioned, he wants to get stronger, fitter, faster to race again next year. But one thing missing from that equation is, while Yamaha has announced that Tomac is racing motocross this year, there has not been an official announcement of a new contract for Tomac for 2025. Will this complicate matters? And what I mean by complicate is only the monetary formula. It's for sure Yamaha wants him back. They don't think the guy's a loser. They don't think the guy's washed up. They'd love to have Tomac back. But how do you calculate the financial value of Tomac now compared to he's the best rider in the sport? That's where he was when he tore the Achilles last year, to now where he's had a good season, not great by his normal standards, and some more injuries. Now they're going to have to sign a deal not knowing really what you're going to have. It's while Tomac's injured. And I know that everyone wants to say you could just pay based on past performance. Eli's a legend. His switch to Yamaha, one of the best team switches ever. It's done amazing things for the fortunes of the YZ450F reputation and the team itself. That renaissance in 2022 for his career and for the rep of that bike, which had been tarnished from a dozen years earlier when the backwards engine first came out. All that, great, but budgets are what they are. And to throw a ton of money at Webb and Tomac again, and then we know they're also going to have probably 19 250 riders, that's tough. We'll see how this turns out. I have an idea, by the way, in the interim. If we don't see Webb nor Tomac when the motocross season begins, there will be Justin Cooper, who is chronically underrated. But when you got so many 250 riders, move somebody up. Let's just see what Jordan Smith can do on a 450 outdoors. I think it'd be cool. And they have so many 250 riders, I don't think it'll be a massive loss to have one less 250 under that tent. Just an idea. Just an idea. Most people will tell you 450s are a little cheaper to operate, even for the top race teams. So why not? Put Jordan Smith on a 450 for motocross, or someone from that 250 group, and see what they can do. And the final word in the 250 class is, we got the tie coming into this weekend. I think everybody knows the scenario. It appears that Levi Kitchen is positioning himself as the next big thing in the class, but it also appears that this is RJ Hampshire's time. RJ Hampshire, once a wild man of the 250 class, has become wildly consistent in Supercross over the last 2 years. So much of this race, to me, will just come down to the start because they've been so equally matched. If we've had 8 races this year, there's probably been 4 where Levi's been the best guy and 4 where RJ's been the best guy. Also had Thrasher and who did we mention before? What was his name? Yes, Jordan Smith and Joe Shimoda. These guys have also been in there. But if you're specifically talking about these two versus each other, one guy's been better than the other guy about half the time. And then the last race at Denver, they were almost equal. Like RJ was making up tiny bits on Kitchen. So to me, a crash obviously could decide it. But outside of that, it's going to come down to the start. Kitchen, on balance, has been a better starter than Hampshire this year. The race is also at altitude, but starts are somewhat random. Starts are putts and free throws and tiny fractions of a second or fraction of an inch making all the difference. Heck, this one might not be decided with the start as much as it is just the first 8 feet out of the gate when they're grabbing at elevation, maybe second gear. Maybe they'll start in first, and whoever gets the elbows in front of the other could decide everything. I mean, that's, like I said, the clutch free throw or the clutch putt in golf. It could come down to that reaction time and just a few seconds out of the gate to decide this title.
So watch these two as they go across the starting gate. Everything is going to be determined by who can get their elbow in front of the other and who can dictate who has to pull that clutch in and who has to let off a little bit. The race could be won and lost right here in the first 5 feet.
But as we've seen before, rarely do you have all 3 championships, when they're up for grabs like this, go perfectly to plan. It would be hard to imagine, honestly, Jett cruising around and winning the title, Tom Vial cruising around and winning the title, and Kitchen and Hampshire just starting in a certain position and just staying that way the whole time. These Supercross gods, especially in these crazy East-West showdown finales with 2 titles on the line, often have one more crazy trick up their sleeve. And they might. And that's why Cooper Webb, ailing and all, I think is going to have to line up this weekend, even though his chances are slim to none. But his team figured out last year sometimes slim still isn't enough to hold on to the title when you got 9 fingers on it, but you just can't get the thumb.